Hey movie buffs! I've prepared a new selection of 15 captivating films that deserve a place on your tonight list. We've brought together a wide variety of genres and stories, ensuring there's something for everyone. But before we begin, I have a small favor to ask. Comment below with the title of the film you consider an absolute masterpiece and would recommend to absolutely anyone. Let's all build a huge list of personal, time-tested recommendations under this video. Enjoy. Our list opens with a crime thriller with a dose of irony where Russell Crowe once again proves that age only adds to his charisma. His character, Manka, is a colorful Albanian immigrant who, over the course of decades in Los Angeles, has transformed a shady strip bar into an elite nightclub. However, the glare of the spotlights and expensive champagne is merely a smokescreen for laundering money for the Mexican cartel. Interestingly, the idea of making the character Albanian came from Crowe himself, recalling the true story of a friend. While they filmed in sunny California, the actual location was the beaches of Australia. The plot unfolds when Manka decides he's had enough of criminal dealings and it's time to retire closer to the Thai beaches and far from the mafia. He finds a buyer for his business, but all his plans are thrown into disarray by a daring robber. A couple of amateur robbers steal the cartel's money. Now Manka finds himself under attack. The bosses are demanding millions. The police are hot on his heels, and the potential buyer is playing his own game. The weary club owner must recall the skills of his dangerous past to extricate himself from this mess and save the woman he loves. What follows is a Canadian psychological thriller that will keep you on the edge of your seat without even showing too much on screen. The plot centers on a high-profile trial of a man accused of horrific crimes committed in various corners of the internet. The film itself masterfully explores the terrifying obsession with crime stories. The film garnered a slew of awards at festivals, and critics unanimously praised it for its atmosphere and the lead character's incredible performance. Her face is practically expressionless, yet she conceals a storm within. Kellyanne, a successful model and online gaming enthusiast, spends every morning at the courthouse doors to secure a front row seat. She literally lives the trial, hanging on every word about mysterious videos from the dark web. There she meets a naive woman who firmly believes in the defendant's innocence. While the whole world wonders who is hiding behind the mask in those recordings, Kellyanne begins her digital investigation. She expertly cracks codes and searches for missing evidence. However, it's unclear whether she wants to punish the culprit or dream of touching the forbidden herself. This German drama turns an ordinary school into a real thriller that's impossible to put down. The main character, a young and idealistic teacher named Carla, finds herself caught in the middle of a scandal due to the crash series within the school. The film is so masterfully shot that you'll feel the tension that hangs in the air of these closed classrooms. It was no wonder the film was nominated for an Oscar. It shows how good intentions can lead to real disaster in a single classroom. It all starts when Carla decides to end the suspicions that are falling on innocent students. She leaves the camera running in the teacher's lounge and captures the sleeve of the suspected thief's blouse. But instead of solving the problem, the video fans the flames. The suspect is a respected employee whose son is Carla's student and is considered the best in the class. Her former favorite students declare war on the teacher. The school newspaper spreads gossip, and the administration demands adherence to protocol, turning Carla's life into a living nightmare. And here we have a story that sounds like a screenwriter's fantasy, but actually happened in reality. Channing Tatum takes on the role of Jeffrey Manchester, a former military officer and the most polite robber in U.S. history. He possessed phenomenal powers of observation and robbed restaurants by breaking into them through the roof, earning his nickname. The funniest part is that he managed to avoid causing harm to the employees and even thoughtfully offered them jackets to keep them warm while locked in the refrigerator. The real action begins when our hero escapes prison and finds the strangest possible hideout, a massive toy store. He builds a secret room behind the bicycle racks and lives there like a true nocturnal creature, sneaking out at night to buy food. Meanwhile, he manages to have an affair with a saleswoman at the store, disguised as a regular guy. Just imagine, during the day he helps out at the church and plays with her children, and at night he retreats to hide in a closet behind dolls and construction sets, trying to conceal his criminal past. The French know how to make inspiring films, and this new release is no exception. This is the true story of two guys who decided to take the world of big-time basketball by storm, armed with nothing but empty pockets and a fanatical love for the game. One of them swept floors at an airport, the other whiled away his days at a video rental store. Both could barely speak a word of English. The film is captivating because it doesn't try to be some pretentious fairy tale. The director wryly depicts the mountains of debt, hundreds of rejections, and absurd situations the future top agents had to endure on their way to contracts worth tens of millions of dollars. It all starts with a crazy idea. Jeremy and Buna decide that they will be the bridge between talented French players and the American leagues Without connections or experience, they head to the United States, where they are perceived as ordinary self-taught adventurers. Every trip overseas becomes a test of endurance. There's not enough money even for decent hotels, and important negotiations feel more like trying to keep up appearances in the face of business sharks. The heroes take on the most hopeless players, haunt clubs, and learn from their mistakes in real time, proving to the world that sometimes a brazen dream is more important than diplomas and literal games. This film transports us to the scorching sands of Morocco, where underground wraith music thunders among majestic mountains. Director Olivier Lachette has created an incredibly beautiful film which deservedly won the jury prize at Cannes. The coolest thing is that real representatives of the European electronic scene participated in the filming, so the atmosphere of freedom and endless dancing is perfectly captured. While in the previous film the heroes were seeking success in business, here a father named Louis is searching for his missing daughter. He shows up at a party with his young son and photographs in hand. I hope some of the pumped-up partygoers saw the Mars. But the situation takes a drastic turn. Due to news of a global conflict, the ravers decide not to disperse and instead head deeper into the desert right up to the border with Mauritania. Louis, in his old family car, hitches a ride with a convoy of trucks and sets off on a dangerous off-road journey where every kilometer takes him further from civilization and makes him wonder if his daughter even wants to be found. Fans of smart thrillers about spies and conspiracies should check out this new release. Dispatch. The plot centers on Ash, an invisible man who mediates between corporations and their former employees. His job is to exchange dangerous, incriminating evidence for money and the safety of his clients. The trick is that he uses an incredibly clever method of communication. He communicates through a service for the hearing impaired. He types a message and a random operator reads it into the receiver. Thus, no one ever heard his real voice. It's curious, by the way, that for the first half hour of the film, the protagonist doesn't utter a word, communicating only by text. However, everything changes when Sarah approaches him. She holds a report on the dangerous side effects of Agrigiant's new product, which they are trying to hide for the sake of a billion-dollar deal. Professional security personnel, so to speak, are already hunting the girl, and her chances of rescue are fading with each passing minute. Ash takes up the case and begins guiding Sarah through a system of codes and traps, but soon realizes that this time standard schemes won't work. He is forced to break the cardinal rule of anonymity and personally intervene in a game where not only the truth, but also the life of a person he was never supposed to meet hangs in the balance. If you're yearning for perfect symmetry and impeccable costumes, then Wes Anderson's latest work, Phoenician Scheme, is just what the doctor ordered. This is a wry spy story set in a fictional 1950s starring Benicio del Toro as Mr. 5%, a fabulously wealthy arms dealer and industrialist. His character, Anatoly Korda, builds entire cities and railroads, all the while surviving countless assassination attempts. The film boasts a truly stellar cast, from Tom Hanks to Scarlett Johansson and Benedict Cumberbatch. And the footage is traditionally filled with antiques. Story unfolds after yet another attempt to dispatch Corda. Afterward, he seriously considers his inheritance, choosing his only daughter as his successor. However, the girl is preparing to become a nun and despises her father as well as his dirty money. To mend their relationship, Anatoly takes her along on a grand tour of Europe, attempting to salvage his greatest financial scheme. As they travel from one eccentric tycoon to another, bounty hunters are on their trail, and the future heiress tries to figure out whether it's worth saving the empire of a man who's measured love solely in percentages of profit his entire life. It's a hunt for shadows. The legendary Jackie Chan is back in action, and this time he proves that the human eye is far more reliable than any sophisticated neural network. This crime thriller takes us to neon-lit Macau, where a gang of cybercriminals rob banks by fooling cameras and facial recognition systems and facial assistant. Director Larry Yances blended classic Hong Kong action with modern technologies like cryptocurrency, and most impressively, 70-year-old Jackie, as usual, performed all his own stunts, while his on-screen adversary, Tony Leung, won a prestigious film award for his role. Ultimately, our hero, Juan, has long since retired from detective work and is peacefully walking his dogs until the police reach a dead end. The criminals are so skilled at digital disguise that they literally vanish into thin air, and only Juan's old methods can stop them. He takes a young partner accustomed to relying on gadgets under his wing and teaches her to see what cameras miss. Together, they must uncover the shadow of a brilliant tactician from the past who trained an entire army of adopted sons for the largest operation in the city's history. Chris Hemsworth versus Mark Ruffalo. That already sounds like a compelling reason to watch the film, but there's much more to this crime thriller than just a battle of the stars. American animal director Bart Layton made a pretty cool film based on a Don Winslow novella. The title Crime 101 is a reference to the famous California highway, Al Highway. It's also an ironic nod to the basic course in Perfect Crime. The plot revolves around Mike, a lone robber who works like a Swiss watch. No clues, no victims, and only perfect timing. The police don't even suspect that a string of robberies along Route 101 is the work of one man, But everything changes when the inquisitive detective Lua picks up Mike's trail. A young, completely crazy criminal who doesn't care about rules or caution also joins the case. As Hemsworth's characters prepare their final heist, teaming up with a disgruntled insurance broker, the stakes skyrocket, and a quiet operation turns into a true game of survival. Brendan Fraser continues his triumphant return to film, this time taking us to the heart of Tokyo. In this touching comedy drama, he plays a down-on-his-luck American actor stuck in Japan. Directed by Hikari, the director of the hit The Squabble, the film once again masterfully balances the funny and the sad. The story itself is about the search for intimacy in a world where even family can be invented. The protagonist, Philip, finds work at an unusual agency that provides actors to imitate real life. He must play the role of a grieving friend at a funeral. Easy. Becoming a foreign colleague at an important dinner, no problem. But things get complicated when Philip is forced to play roles that require real emotion. He becomes a father to a little girl whose mother wants to enroll her in an elite school and an interviewer for an elderly actor with amnesia. Philippe becomes so attached to his clients that the line between a paid role and genuine love begins to blur, forcing him to finally find his place in this world. The Assessment is a sci-fi thriller that transports us to a future where, due to the climate crisis, every resource counts. And the right to become a parent is not a gift of nature, but a state privilege. Elizabeth Olsen and Heems Patel play the perfect couple who live in a high-tech home and dream of having a child. But to obtain the coveted permit, they must pass that very assessment, a 7-day psychological marathon under the supervision of an inspector. The film builds the atmosphere quite interestingly, turning a cozy home into a testing ground where every word or gesture can make a lifelong dream come true. But real chaos erupts when Inspector Virginia, played by Alice Vikander, bursts into their lives. She doesn't just ask awkward questions, she puts on a downright crazy performance. The grown woman begins to behave like a capricious and unruly child. He throws food, throws tantrums in the middle of the night, and tests the hero's mettle in the most enchanting ways. Couple is forced to play along in this rather bizarre role-playing game. Unable to understand where the test ends, a cruel manipulation begins, opening up their own old wounds and making them doubt each other. Nickel Boys. This drama is based on a frightening reality. Based on Colney Whitehead's Pulitzer Prize-winning novel, the film tells the story of Nickel, a reform school in Florida in the 1960s. Paper promised re-education, but in reality the lives of teenagers turned into nightmares. Director Ramo Ross used a rather bold approach. We see almost the entire action literally through the character's eyes, which creates a rather unnerving effect. The plot centers on the idealist Elwood, who believes in the laws and speeches of Martin Luther King. However, his life is derailed by a fateful accident. He gets into a stolen car without even realizing it. In Nickel, he encounters cruelty, labor, and the mysterious disappearances of students. There, he meets the cynical Turner, who is convinced that the only way to escape is to become invisible. The most terrifying thing is that this story was based on the real-life Dozier School, on whose grounds dozens of graves were discovered 100 years later. The film itself received 2 Oscar nominations and became one of the most powerful statements of that year. Mountain Bride. This film is a true visual feast for those who appreciate profound and subtle cinema. The historical drama triumphed at the Venice Film Festival, taking home the Grand Prix of the jury and collected a host of awards back home in Italy. The director is Maura Del Pera. Inspired by her own family history, she depicts life in the Alpine village of 1944 in incredible detail. The plot centers on the extended family of a strict schoolteacher, Cesare. While the front is far away, life in the mountains goes on as usual. The children study, the adults tend to the household, and the expectation of the war's end hangs in the air. However, everything changes when Pietra, a deserter from Sicily who saved one of his relatives, arrives in the village. He doesn't understand the local dialects, he's an outsider, but it's with him that the teacher's eldest daughter, Lucia, falls in love. For her, this silent soldier offers a chance at a different life. But in this tiny settlement where everyone is on display, their love quickly turns into a trial for the entire family. This is a beautiful and honest story about how the old world collapses under the onslaught of emotions and inevitable change. Our marathon concludes with a chilling thriller based on an incredible but true story. Incidentally, this is actress Anna Kendrick's directorial debut, and she tackles a complex subject right away. Imagine 1978, the popular TV show The Dating Game, where a girl chooses a guy without seeing his face. In the center of the studio is the charming Cheryl, and behind the screen at number 3 sits Rodney Alcala. He's smart, witty, and devilishly charming. The audience is enthralled. Cheryl is intrigued, but she doesn't yet know that before her stands one of the most brutal criminals in U.S. history. The most terrifying thing about this film isn't the show itself, but the fact that Rodney came to television at the height of his crime spree, already a convicted felon. The film masterfully contrasts the bright lights of the studio with the dark world of the criminal who lured victims by posing as a photographer. Anna Kendrick didn't just make a thriller about a criminal, she created a powerful story about intuition. While many around her ignore the warning signs, Cheryl begins to realize that behind the perfect candidate's smile lies a true monster. I hope this collection helped you make your choice and added some interesting films to your collection. If you found the video helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. This always helps it grow. And join my Telegram channel where you'll find even more interesting things from the world of cinema. The link is in the description. As always, Days was at the mic. See you in the next video.